I just got in this Nikon Zf camera, and boy, is it a beaut. This looks almost like a Nikon film camera. I've also still got this Fuji X-T5. Also, kind of looks like a film camera. So this video is not a review. This is really just a first impressions. I just got this camera, but kind of want to provide a feel for the differences just right out of the box. Kind of like I just did with the GFX 100 the second and the Hasselblad X2D. More to come on that still as well. So, out of the box, the Nikon Zf is definitely bigger and heavier than the X-T5. I also find that the grip on the Zf is not as comfortable as the X-T5 without a hand grip. Both of them, you really kind of do need a hand grip, but the X-T5 has a little bit more of a ledge than the Zf. Find that a little bit more comfortable to hold. I have a little more purchase on the camera this way versus this guy where there's barely any. Still better than completely flat, but could have been bigger in my opinion. The Zf also has a very important feature. That's right, if I can get it. A flippy screen. The X-T5 has that more photocentric screen, which actually I'm pretty okay with, to be honest. It's pretty cool too. So just, you know, screens at all angles. All good on both sides here. Everybody's got a flippy screen. My biggest sort of initial impression, sort of takeaway from unboxing the Zf and trying it out here, is that it is bigger and heavier, about the same weight as like a Leica camera, like a brass Leica camera I feel like, than this X-T5. You know, otherwise seemingly very similar, slightly better grip on this guy. This guy also has the joystick. This does not have a joystick, that bugs me. Some other sort of interesting thoughts about Nikon and their full frame sort of classic retro cameras. You know, they've done several in years past. They did the Nikon Df in the DSLR days, and you know, to me, if you looked at the camera straight on, it was a beautiful camera. If you flipped it around, it looked like a cheaper Nikon DSLR. It had the cheaper battery. And above all, the thing that was really strange to me about it was that besides the small battery, which was really the deal killer for me, is they put an excellent sensor in the camera, but then they put kind of the worst autofocus system they had at the time, and it made the camera almost unusable for a lot of things. So it was sort of a weird sort of mishmash of a camera, kind of half-baked, I think, in a lot of ways. Then, a year or two ago, in the mirrorless era, as it were, they made the ZFC first. It was compact, super duper light, but very cheap and plasticky feeling. And in my opinion, the APS-C sensor they used in there was just okay. It was nowhere near the quality you were getting out of Fuji cameras. So to me, it kind of felt like a pointless camera that looked good on paper, but once you got it in your hands was kind of a flat tire. And now you have the Nikon Zf. And it's sort of a weird thing. I'm not sure they've really learned from their mistakes in the past. It's bigger than the ZFC. It's a little bit clunky, kind of like the DF was. And then they put really good autofocus in it. They put almost Z8, Z9 level autofocus in it, but then they put the old Z6 sensor in it. So arguably one of the worst sensors in their lineups. And I just don't get that strategy. Who are they going after? You have Fuji on the one hand with the X-T5, that's super light, compact, and has excellent image quality for an APS-C camera. Probably the best APS-C image quality ever, with a 42 or so megapixel sensor, pretty darn good autofocus, excellent video features, right? The XH2 and the XH2 S also, though the XH2S is the stacked lower megapixel sensor. You know, the only place I can really see Fuji going from there really is going to a stacked 42 megapixel APS-C sensor, which won't really improve the image quality. I think it would just make it a faster readout for video and sports and those kinds of things. But anyways, Fuji, you know, excellent quality for APS-C, super light, portable. I know tons of people that use other camera systems but that have a Fuji just for travel or for sort of, everyday carry purposes because they're so light and easy to use. Then you have Leica, on the other hand, which has these bigger cameras, kind of similar size of ZF, heavy, but then Leica tries, in my opinion, to put the nicest, top quality, best features that they can pack in a camera in all of their cameras, right? You know, the new M11 has the best sensor for full frame cameras, the same one as the A7R5. It's got the brand new battery. You know, it finally has the USB-C charging ability. They put all the stuff that they can in it. Same thing with the Q3, face detect autofocus, the A7R5 sensor. You know, anything they have in terms of technology, they put it in there. So it's really a top of the line, premium experience, super great build quality, even though that makes it more expensive. So, you know, in terms of the Nikon Zf, I'm not sure who they're going after, you know, with this camera, or if they're trying to bridge some middle gap of people that want a retro camera but don't quite want the Fuji or the Leica experience. They just want something in the middle, which to me would really be more like a Z6 III, you know. So I just don't quite understand it if they're trying to take market share from those two competitors. Either you know, make the ZFC body out of metal, make it really nice, not unlike the Fuji cameras, but put the full frame sensor. Like, to me, that would sort of be the perfect full frame camera. It's just really just like a, you know, a Fuji X-T5, but with a full frame sensor in it, you know, maybe a full flippy screen, and then a sensor protector. I note that although I think it was Matt Granger, one of the Australian camera reviewers, Nikon specific camera reviewers, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but seems like Australians like Nikons. They reported that the sensor shield would come down to the ZF. As far as I can see, that is not the case. There is no menu option to do that. You know, I've used the Z8 and Z9. I've had both of those cameras in my hands. They both have an option to turn it on, you know, in the settings menu. It's not there for the ZF, so I don't know if that's coming in a different firmware update, or if, like, you know, there's a way to, like, click the shutter and turn it off so it does it. I don't know. Maybe the Australian camera reviewer can clarify, but as far as I can see, that is not an option. But anyway, so yeah, you know, perfect camera would be something like the X-T5, but with a full frame sensor shield, you know, and a full flippy screen like the A7R5. Then you've got a complete package, you know, outside of medium format cameras, which is, you know, more and more, which is becoming my day-to-day shooter anyways. But outside of that, that would really be a game changer to me. You know, especially talking about putting, you know, the Fuji APS-C line sort of, you know, on its heels. And then similarly, I don't quite understand why they didn't come out with two models of the ZF, kind of like Sony recently did with its A7C cameras. The sort of consumer grade one, like the ZF, with, you know, a cheaper sensor, less good viewfinder, that kind of a thing. And a more expensive one, like the A7C R5 or A7C, I'm not sure what it's called, but the A7R5 smaller version of it. You know, why not come out with a more expensive one that has a premium build quality, you know, has that top of the line 61 megapixel sensor, it's got a bomb viewfinder, you know, just make it premium across the board. I think that would be really compelling and give Leica a run for its money, right? But instead, they sort of make compromises on both ends of the spectrum and give you this camera in the middle. So again, I'm just not really sure about it. So, you know, gonna test more. Maybe you don't really need that 61 megapixel sensor, and I'm being silly. You know, also it'd be hard to give up those Leica colors because they're fantastic. But yeah, so, you know, gonna try the camera. We'll see. One. So pluses and minuses right out of the box, but this being a little bit heavier, all other things being equal, being a little bit bigger, having a slightly worse grip, it's really going to have much better image quality than this guy for me to want to sort of pick this over this. In terms of price and other things, they're very close. So, you know, stay tuned. More to come on this full review once I've had time to learn this camera so I can properly compare it against this other beast of a camera, the X-T5. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next one.